Hi and welcome back. This is Cheyenne Wyoming Urban Gardener Debbie, and this is the second part of that video. Sorry you saw my hand there. My strap had fallen down, so I had to put it back on. I use my cell phone to record videos. So anyway, we were going into the back part of the trellis on the beans, and for some reason we got zero germination back here for the Japanese yard long beans. That same bean seed as the ones that are along the front. So I think the soil may have been a little bit too cold, because when I planted those, it was back when we had a little bit of snow happening and some frost and a whole bunch of things. So I think just for some reason those seeds did not come up. So I went ahead and replanted those as well back through here with the rattlesnake pole beans, just to fill in. And I did plant a few more of the Japanese yard long beans that I had along this back part, and these are bean seeds that I had saved from last season out of my own beans. So we have that going along, and hopefully they will come up in just a few days. It only took a few days for these to come up. So very happy with the germination on some of it, not so happy with the other part of it. Same seeds and not sure why. So anyway, but we'll get it all going. At least I had the seeds, and the seeds were free, so that's a good thing. Because most of them I'd saved for myself. And we did pick up some more pepper plants, and we did find 2 tomatillo plants to replace the ones that had frozen and died. So we got those, and I'll be staking those up here pretty soon. And all of my tomatoes, every single one of them, even the little tiny puny ones that looked like they were terrible, are going to survive. Every single one of them have pulled out all of my super sauce, all of that. I worried about them last season, and they pulled out, and then again this season they've done the same. So every single one of them look like they're going to survive, and they're thriving. Actually have gotten a lot bigger, have enjoyed being outside, and my clematis that's right in the center of them is also looking wonderful and beautiful. A lot better than it did last season, because it was just kind of straggly, but it bloomed and everything, and it seemed like it was happy. So now it is doing the same thing. We've got some new trellises for it, which it's snagged onto, and looks a lot better. And the garden in general for me this season looks a lot better than it did last season, because it was newly broken ground. If you remember last season, we had just expanded the garden. I had to pause it for a moment because my dogs were barking at a crow that was a baby crow that's in the tree. Anyway, these are the potatoes this season. This is just a couple of days growth. Amazing amount of growth on these Kennebec potatoes. Again, we have the 4 rows. The 1 row in the very back is the seed that I had saved, seed potatoes from last season, out of the ones that I had grown, and they were the first ones that came up. But now they're kind of a little bit smaller than some of the ones that are up here, because they were very, very small potatoes that were left. They had shriveled up quite a bit until we got them out here to plant. So even though they came up first and they came up the thickest, they are not the biggest, because these are all the biggest plants. Definitely just growing by leaps and bounds through here. We had chitted all of these potatoes, which means we just basically cut them into sections with a couple of eyes on each section, and then planted them. So we've got a couple of bare areas because we just basically chitted them, put them immediately in the ground. I didn't have time to wait on them, so we have a couple of areas that have got some spots, but I believe that they will come on up and fill out for the ones that did come up. But it's really just only a couple to a few. Everything else through here has came up for those Kennebec potatoes. They're looking beautiful, they're looking healthy, and we will be getting some organic fertilizers into them very soon. These are the Kellogg's breakfast tomatoes, and I had 4 of those, and unfortunately I did lose 1. And that one was lost because I hit it with the garden hose yet again, and it broke off completely. So it did die off. Well, you can kind of see that it's just laying down there on the ground. So maybe it'll come back out. I don't know. Maybe I'll go ahead and get it restaked to see if it comes back out. But otherwise, borage is getting ready to bloom. You can see some blooms in that center section. It'll throw up a stalk and bloom. And then our basil just continuing to get bigger. And then of course our shallots and our garlic is, our one garlic plant is looking beautiful. I actually have some more shallots to plant. And I have a little bit of room left through here, just a couple of spots. So I'm going to get those in the ground. And I think we've got some really large shallots in there by looking at the stalks of the shallot plants. You can see there, they are nice and thick, big stalks. So I think we've got some really nice shallots down in there already, because they have been planted since way back in March. So I look forward to having a little bit of a staggered planting on those shallots, because I really do enjoy shallots. And all of our corn is up. It is up a few inches now. Some of the ones in the back are still working on coming up because it's a little bit more shaded back there. So you can see not so much happening back here, but there are little corn shoots. You just have a really hard time seeing them because they're a little bit slower here in the back due to the shaded part of the garden. But they are coming up, and then we will be getting beans. Get out of there. We have a dog checking out the corn. We will be getting some beans planted between each of the corn and get those thinned out very, very soon. And then I planted some zinnias along this little front section here, and they're already up. You can see some little starts there. They came up in 2 days. 2 days these zinnias came up. So we've got all of those in there, and so we're going to be planting our beans between the corn, and then we have actually Tahitian squash planted between each one of the rows here. So we've got squash planted here, and I'll probably plant another variety of squash as well in here, just to have them run up the corn and around the corn, give it a little bit more stability against wind, because we have a lot of wind in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I have transplanted even more borage into pots, and then I have a pepper plant in here as well. And then you can see that we have really expanded our garden containers. We now have almost 100 between the ones in the front and the ones over here on the side, which is the south side facing. And I did bring my other celery starts outside to get some sun, and they're not liking it too much. So I'm not sure how many of those will actually survive because they were still kind of small. And see if we can get those planted, but it looks like that they may have perked up last night a little bit. We still have some flowers to plant in some hanging baskets, but we do have our cantaloupe here. I ended up having to get some cantaloupe plants because the cantaloupe that I had started from seed didn't do so well out here. So, and it's again the temperatures. They really love heat. So I went and got some starts. And these I got it at the nursery that I had shown you a video of. That's the Fort Collins nursery, and they were really healthy plants. So I got 4 of those, got those started, and they're called Ball 2076 cantaloupe plants. So I've never grown that variety. We'll see how that goes. So it sounds like something that maybe they have done themselves as far as hybridized. We've got a couple of pepper plants here in this pot. And then we have some watermelons here. And these are the smaller variety of watermelons. So it's been really cool this season. So they're having a hard time trying to get started, but they are still alive, which is a good thing. And our parsley is doing really good. This is a triple curl parsley. Watercress is just absolutely taking off like crazy. All of our lettuce is looking beautiful here in this container. This is just something that I can reach outside and grab some leaves off of when it's ready to do. And I actually transplanted some more yesterday. So we've got some more in there. And this is a pot of flowers that my daughter had put together. And this is alyssum. And you can actually eat the flowers on these, and they're kind of sweet. And you can put them in salads and things like that. So that's something that she's trying out. The cilantro or coriander is absolutely just thriving, looking beautiful. It's almost ready to start picking leaves off of. Our radishes are starting to head up now, doing much better in this container than they were in the previous bunch, although I did get a couple of heads off of them. And then the clematis that's planted in the back of that is just looking beautiful. In fact, I need to get a bigger trellis because, as you can see, it's starting to come off of that trellis. I'm wanting to continue to go on, and I don't want it to get into the shingles of the house. We picked up a lemon mint, and we've got it planted here in this pot. We've got some more alyssum seeds in this pot. We've got some burpless cucumbers seeds that are planted in this pot that should be coming up pretty soon. This one is still empty. This is our largest pot. We got some basil transplanted into this pot. Our tarragon is really just coming on and thriving now, and there's some more seeds in there that should be coming up soon. And there's the cucumbers that I started from seed, and they're kind of struggling, but they are getting some new growth on them, so they're looking a lot better than they were. And then here's some watermelon that we picked up at, just a moment. This is some watermelon that we picked up at the Fort Collins nursery, and it's kind of struggled. Again, it's because of the temperatures, but we are supposed to be up into the 80s today with temperatures going low into the 50s, so they will definitely start picking up on growth. Some of them already have since yesterday, and we are going to go into the 90s pretty soon, so they will definitely start really picking up then. But we have a few different varieties in here. We've got black diamond watermelon, sugar baby watermelons, and oh goodness, we've got a bunch of different ones. We have the doll baby watermelons, crimson sweet watermelons, so just all kinds of different types of watermelon going on in containers. Here we've got a couple of more tomatoes, the ones that I had told you about in the previous video, where we had separated the San Marzano out, and there was actually a couple of extra tomato plants in there that were still kind of small, but we went ahead and took them in the house for a few days. They really took off. Now we planted them outside yesterday, and they just really loved that. This one doubled in size in one day, and this one really perked up. It hasn't doubled in size, but it definitely perked up since yesterday. And then we've got an orange mint that we picked up at the Fort Collins nursery and planted, and it is just loving life out here. It just didn't take it any time at all just to take off. We got all kinds of strawberries planted in our new converted kiddie pool, and we got two different varieties in here that we picked up at the Fort Collins nursery. One is called a mountain strawberry, which is a smaller variety. We've already eaten a couple of strawberries off of that. And then we have a bigger variety of strawberries, and I forget the variety on this one, but it is an ever-bearing seascape strawberries. So we picked up some of those, all nice and healthy. Try to get those established in here, which they really seem to be liking it. And as you can see, there's a couple of strawberries coming on right now. The blooms turn into strawberries, and they're just loving everything. So loving this kiddie pool, and we've got some more seeds in there. We've got some basil in the center, which is definitely thriving, and these were from the Dollar Tree. Then we just rolled them out and stuck it in the ground, and they're doing great. And then we also planted some rosemary seeds in here, so looking fantastic. And now we're over here in the herb garden. This is the small square area, and we have some dill planted in here that is just absolutely going like crazy. It's kind of hard to see in here, but this is the Long Island dill, and it's going to be pretty huge, and it is just doing great. And then we have our Four Seasons lettuce through here that is definitely starting to get its color now. It's more of a rusty red color. And our chamomile is just blooming like crazy, getting bigger. And we have some more that have came up and are starting to get established. Our lemon balm is still repairing itself from getting frozen, but it looks a lot more healthy. Definitely putting on some nice growth, and we've got it nice and round now, which is something I enjoy. Salvia is blooming like crazy and is not taking over like it was last season, so much happier with that. as you can see there, and they are just drawing in all sorts of pollinators. I was watching a couple of nights ago that we were watching the hummingbird moths that were here, and you can see right now here's a pollinator. You can see a little honeybee. And we've got some rosemary planted through here, and our oregano is coming out like crazy, and our elf thyme has really picked up, or it could be a different kind of thyme. I was talking about that at the Fort Collins nursery. And our daylilies are doing fantastic, and our columbine, everything just growing like crazy. Anyway, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out, and we will see you in the next one.